In the dark silence above the Iraqi desert, two American airmen sat inside a jet that carried no bombs, no missiles, and not even a gun. Their aircraft, the EF-111A Raven, was a machine built not to destroy, but to blind and confuse. On the night of January the 17th, 1991, the opening hours of Operation Desert Storm, its crew would accomplish something no one thought was possible. They would defeat a hostile fighter aircraft in aerial combat using only electronic warfare and pure flying skill. This is the incredible story of how an unarmed airplane designed for nothing but jamming radar ran down an Iraqi Mirage phone and forced it into the ground, achieving one of the most unusual air victories in military history. The EF-111 was the silent guardian of the skies, a specialized version of the EF-111 Aardvark modified with powerful electronic systems to detect, jam, and scramble enemy radar signals. It carried a large pod under its belly called the ALK-99, a technological weapon that could blind enemy defenses. The aircraft earned the nickname Sparkvark because instead of dropping bombs, it unleashed invisible waves of electromagnetic disruption. Its mission was to protect strike aircraft, F-15s, F-16s, and coalition bombers by entering enemy airspace first and neutralizing threats before anyone else even saw them. This gave the EF-111A reputation as both brave and vulnerable. It was always flying ahead of the pack, yet completely defenseless if an enemy fighter got close. Inside one of these Ravens that night were Captain Jim Denton, the pilot, and his electronic warfare officer, Captain Brent Brandon. Their flight path took them deep into hostile skies, where Iraqi air defenses were on high alert. Coalition forces had just launched the opening salvo of the air campaign, and Iraq scrambled fighters to intercept the intruders. Among the responding aircraft was a Dassault Mirage phone, sleek, fast, and armed with deadly Matra missiles. The Mirage pilot was determined to score the first Iraqi aerial kill of the war. His radar locked onto the EF-111, and suddenly the hunted Raven crew realized they were being tracked. The EF-111 had one advantage: it could jam radar, guided weapons. But this didn't guarantee survival. The Mirage was getting closer, and if the enemy switched to heat, seeking missiles, or opened fire with its cannon, the Raven's electronics would be meaningless. Denton and Brandon had to think fast. Running away wasn't an option. The Mirage was designed for interception and was much faster in a straight line. The only path to survival was to force the Mirage pilot into a mistake, a maneuver that would make him lose sight or control. With enemy radar beams sweeping around them, Denton pushed the EF-111 into a series of violent turns, using the terrain below as a shield. The desert floor was still faintly visible in the moonlight, but clouds and dust made navigation dangerously unclear. Flying low in such conditions was a gamble, and one wrong move could be fatal. Meanwhile, Brandon pumped out aggressive jamming pulses, attempting to break the Mirage pilot's lock. The jet shuddered with every maneuver, its wings slicing through turbulent air as the Mirage clung dangerously close behind. The Iraqi pilot was skilled and relentless. He was convinced that he had a helpless enemy trapped, one that could not shoot back. All he had to do was keep pursuing until the perfect firing solution appeared. But Denton and Brandon were not giving him that chance. The EF-111 plunged toward the desert at high speed, hugging the surface. The Mirage followed, diving steeply to maintain pursuit. What happened next would shock both air forces. Denton executed a sudden brake turn, pulling the heavy EF-111 close to the ground while using the Earth's curvature to mask their radar signature. Brandon intensified electronic scrambling, filling the Mirage's sensors with noise. Deprived of a clean signal and focused entirely on the Raven's evasive movement, the Iraqi pilot gave chase without noticing how fast the ground was rising ahead of him. In the chaos of darkness, electronic interference, and high G turns, he misjudged his descent trajectory. In a split second, the Mirage slammed into the desert floor, exploding into a fiery burst of debris that scattered across the silent terrain. The EF-111 hadn't fired a single round, it hadn't dropped a bomb, it hadn't even carried a weapon, and yet the enemy fighter was destroyed. Denton and Brandon climbed to safety, hearts pounding as they realized what had just happened. Against all odds, they had achieved an air victory with nothing but skillful flying and the powerful electronic warfare systems aboard the Raven. It was an outcome that would soon become legendary. In military aviation, an air-to-air kill is typically defined by a confirmed destruction of an enemy aircraft during combat. This one was unique, not just because the EF-111 had no weapons, but because the enemy crashed while pursuing them. Some debated whether it should count as a kill, but official records eventually confirmed it as such. The EF-111 had scored its first, and only, air-to-air victory. Danton and Brandon were credited with a success that no one else in their community had ever achieved. For electronic warfare crews, this moment was more than just a battle victory. It was proof of their strategic importance. Many fighter pilots often received the glory, while the electronic warfare specialists operated in the shadows, quietly enabling mission success. But this incident highlighted how crucial their roles were, how blinding the enemy could. Every bomber, every fighter protected by the F-111 that night reached its target. And when they returned safely, many crew members did so without even knowing that a Raven had risked everything to keep Iraqi fighters away. Back home, news of the event spread quickly. The F-111 community took pride in the achievement. Their aircraft, often underestimated, had outmaneuvered a supersonic interceptor and turned the enemy's aggression into their own downfall. The phrase "the F-111 scored a kill with no bullets" became a symbol of the power of brains over brute force. Danton and Brandon became celebrated airmen, though they always insisted it was a team victory, one achieved by the technology, the training, and the mission mindset that put safety of the entire fleet above personal heroics. The Mirage crash also carried a deeper message about aerial combat in the modern era. Technology was evolving. Air dominance was no longer solely about speed or raw firepower. The invisible battlefield of radar waves, sensors, and electronic disruption was becoming just as decisive as missiles. The F-111 Raven represented this shift, a quiet enforcer whose purpose was to keep the skies safe for others. The Iraqi pilot never saw the missile that would kill him because there wasn't one. Instead, he fell victim to confusion, pressure, and the unforgiving desert floor. Over the years, the incident became a case study in air combat training. Flight schools examined how situational awareness can collapse under the stress of pursuit. Electronic warfare experts pointed to the battle as a rare example of how jamming technology, when paired with tactical flying, could neutralize even a determined enemy fighter. And for historians, it became a reminder that war is often won not by the loudest weapon, but by the one that quietly controls the fight. Eventually, the F-111A Raven was retired from service, replaced by newer, more advanced systems like the EA-118G Growler. But its legacy lives on. The men who flew and operated the Sparkvark remember the dangers they faced, flying over heavily defended territory, equipped with nothing but electronic pulses and trust in each other. They knew that if an encounter like the one with the Mirage ever went wrong, they would have no way to shoot back, yet they flew anyway. Their courage ensured the success of countless missions that never made headlines. Danton and Brandon's victory remains one of the most extraordinary moments in aerial combat history. It is a story that defies expectations and rewrites conventional ideas of what it means to win a dogfight. This was not a triumph of superior firepower. It was a triumph of quick thinking, teamwork, and the strategic power of electronic warfare. It showed that even in a sky filled with deadly weapons, the sharpest edge is still the human mind. When we look back on Operation Desert Storm, we often remember the stealth bombers striking Baghdad, the Patriot missiles intercepting Scuds, or the F-15s dominating the air to air battles. But hidden behind these famous images was the quiet presence of aircraft like the F-111, ensuring that others could fly with confidence. Their victory that night, gained without a single shot, is a reminder of the invisible protectors who make modern warfare possible. In the end, the Raven's kill stands as a symbol of ingenuity and bravery, a reminder that in war, survival is sometimes the greatest victory. Two men, strapped into a jet designed only to blind and confuse the enemy, found themselves face to face with a predator built for one purpose: to destroy. No missiles, no guns, just speed, nerves, and the ability to outthink the opponent. Captain James Denton and Captain Brent Brandon didn't panic. They didn't freeze. They trusted their machine, trusted each other, and used every ounce of training and intuition they had. They turned the EF-111A jet many dismissed as unarmed into the deadliest thing in the sky for one critical moment. High above the Iraqi desert, power shifted. The hunter became the hunted. The Mirage pilot, chasing what he thought was an easy target, suddenly found himself diving too fast, too low, with no time to recover. The ground came up like a punch. In a flash, the fight was over. The desert absorbed the impact, leaving behind twisted metal buried in sand, a silent monument to a split-second mistake. Meanwhile, the Raven climbed away, battered but alive. Back at the airbase, mechanics inspected the jet for damage while Denton and Brandon walked away with the weight of what they had done finally settling in. They had defended themselves without firing a shot, a victory that would be remembered not for destruction, but for survival. Today, the wreckage of the Mirage remains somewhere out there under the sun, a relic of a moment when skill beat firepower, when calm beat chaos. And the F-111's legacy lives on in every electronic warfare officer who steps into a cockpit knowing one simple truth: you don't have to shoot to win. Sometimes the smartest weapon is the one the enemy never sees coming.